Hey guys, welcome back to Trekyards Mission Briefing, your pretty much weekly dose of Trek discussion goodness. We look at a ship, we talk, theorise, and just take a first look, a really sort of in-depth first look of this ship. Yeah, I'm just going to skip that rest of the intro and say, Stuart, what are you doing? What are we doing today?
Today we're doing a ship from Enterprise, and, well, you probably can't guess what it is, can you?
I'm not even going to try. I'm just waiting for how you're gonna segue this.
Stupid pink skins, I'm telling you. Anyway, we're going to look at the Andorian Kumari Cruiser, which is fantabulous. It's an awesome ship.
Great name, Kumari.
I know.
So first picture, we have got the original model for this, so a lot of these pictures are going to be original renders, and you can tell which ones are which. It's a nice high detail. The first two are not. So this is probably a Drex Files image, I'm sure, but this is the real model. But what do you think? What did you think first time you saw this in Enterprise? And what was your impression of it?
I thought it looked very Star Trek-y. It looks like, well, any other franchise. It could be a Star Wars ship. It could be a Babylon 5 ship. Battlestar Galactica for sure. It looks like the front of the Galactica a little bit. It also looks like some kind of phaser rifle weapon. If you take off the wings, you could like modify it, put a handle on it. I mean, it's got such a generic look almost that it could be anything. So that's what I thought, but I liked it. I don't get me wrong, I think it's great.
Yeah, so my first impression, I remember thinking, okay, it's a ship. And that was the rest of my impression. I mean, it's kind of interesting, I think.
It looks like it could almost be like a modern day plane.
Yeah,
like some kind of stealth plane.
I love your BSG comparison. I mean, I think that's a pretty great comparison. It could easily be some sort of Cylon ship. You take out the glowing parts, it could be a Cylon stealth cruiser or something. It's a very... Well, that's the thing, though. You want these ships to be different than Alien, especially when you have a proto ship. And unlike the Vulcan, we have no other ships to glean off of. But Andorian, I mean, what you're telling me is they like thin ships with things sticking out. I mean, I guess...
Well, let's look at the only other Andorian ship we've ever seen, which is the fastest ship, the Andor class, which is an Andorian-designed Federation ship. You can kind of see some similarities here, can't you? Yeah, you can.
Yeah?
Well, just I mean, yeah, I see similarities.
Okay, sure.
So anyway.
Yeah.
This was probably not used as a reference at all, but it's just interesting that it kind of ties together, kind of. My favorite ship. I keep pointing this out at every time.
But yeah, so I mean, I think one thing I really thought about the ship is that, also in Enterprise, the highest res, of all different shows apart from the movies. But still, though, you didn't really get a great sense of the detail, and so for me, I never really got a concept of all little subtle details. But this episode, we are going to look at some of those because we have all these cool other renders. So if we go to the next picture, well, we'll see it as part of a fleet. And then we'll move on to other pictures. But it kind of just gives a fleet ship, though, I think. Like a whole selection of them. It kind of works. Like the thin shape, kind of.
Yeah, it does. But then it brings to my mind, again, Battlestar Galactica. And see the ships in that fleet. It just... It's definitely... It's definitely a departure from the Federation design because no saucer section, nothing like that. So
still a primary hull, secondary hull, and nacelles, sort of. But then I guess nacelle, and there are blue bits here, but then you want Alien. But I think that's
exactly
at that point it's just our own personal. Do we like it? Do we not like it? But let's look at the details. This next picture is an actual high res picture. I did them quite bright so you can see. And straight away you notice things like there's actually, detail, there's actually a line either side and there's detail, these little circle things. Like the whole ship basically has a line of internal detail, kind of like Star Destroyers have on the edge of their rims, which is kind of cool.
As we call them in the modeling community, yes.
Although quite possibly weapons as well, weapon turrets.
That's what I was just going to ask. Are those round things on the side, are they perhaps photon torpedo launchers or photon missile launchers of some kind? Because I know that the Andor class is a torpedo gunboat. It's got 8 torpedo launchers on it. And they are an aggressive, hostile species. They're very warlike. So it makes sense that those might be some kind of weapons. I don't know.
I mean, at the end of the day, torpedoes are self-guided. There's no reason you have to have them on the front of the ship. No reason at all. So you can, you know, 2 launchers either side just go bum 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 bum, keep going bum bum. I mean, we see with disruptors, or at least phase disruptors of some kind. I mean, what do you see in this picture? I mean, this is a nice high-res, high-detail picture. What do you see? What do your eyes spring to?
Really, that's just that whole front part. It looks very like an animal head almost. You got the eyes on the side, kind of like a beak at the front. That's what I see. It's a great design. I absolutely love this design. But like I said, it's not necessarily Star Trek. I know it's the Andorians. And the coloring kind of speaks to being Andorian, kind of the blue hull coloring. But
see, it's weird then. I mean, do you think like the Galore is a very Star Trek design? I mean, does that, you know, it was out of frame, but, you know, the Cardassian ship, is that a very Star Trek design?
Yes, I think it is, because it's like nothing we've seen in any other franchise. This looks like a very generic ship of the week TNG ship almost.
Yeah, I mean,
the problem I have with the Kumari, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love it, but I think it could be in any video game I've ever played. It could be in any other sci-fi series I've ever watched, or, like I said, a ship of the week in TNG. The Galore, not so much. The Galore is it's a very unique look, very unique design style that I don't associate with anything other than Star Trek. I see this, and my mind just wanders into other ships from different franchises. Like I said, the front of the Battlestar Galactica, you got that kind of look, and I just see different pieces that remind me of other things.
If you took away,
that takes me out of the Star Trek universe, and
so it's less. It doesn't look Star Trek, but it's more that it looks generic, because we want different alien races of different looks, and this is obviously a very unique look in the Star Trek universe.
Yeah,
but just not in. But I mean, how many times can you have home runs? I think the fact that like, the Vorchar looks so different, and the Burrell and all these things look so like good in their own way. You know, yeah, you're allowed to have other ones. I think one thing that really strikes me about this ship is how many different panel lines there is in the front section. How many different coloration. I mean, that's beautiful when you have, you know, light hit it and all shimmers. I did this quite bright so you can see high detail, but it has so much painting. Even if it's not full hull, it's just like painting the paint hull. I think it definitely speaks, like I said, to an animal, because if you look at that front bit, I mean, the way it's sort of the lines, it looks like the face paint of a beast. I mean, if you have these being wings going up, I mean, you can probably call like a bird in flight almost.
And the patterning is kind of reminiscent of feathering almost as well. So yeah, I see that. I do. I really do. But let's move on to the next picture. This is close. So I would assume that front part there would be their deflector.
Yep.
Which will make a lot of people happy because there's a deflector on this one. Don't get me started.
It's not a dish, but it is some sort of detailing.
It's reminiscent of the NX one, kind of that longer shape.
Yeah. And those side things could still be weapons. But just great. Greeblies, just great. Although, you know, having any piping visible is like an obvious thing to hit. But I mean, these are the details that you never saw, and why would you, in the show? And again, all these things had to be physically made. You know, I love those sorts of detail. And the next photo is a close-up of the aft section. Again, great looking detail. I feel like, you know, I've got the Eagle Moss magazine, but we don't research these beforehand to look at our first impressions. You know, to show are we right or wrong. What does our knowledge of the universe help us work out? I think those. Well, I should show you. I think these bits are weapons. And these bits are engines, and this is an engine, this is an engine. I think these are actually meant to be weapons, specifically. I can't remember exactly, but I think they are. What do you think, if they are?
Yeah, I remember 2 pictures ago, I was looking at all this other detailing, thinking of what I want to talk about, and I thought the same thing. I wasn't necessarily sure if those were the nacelles, or if the main engine is that blue part at the very back of the ship, or those pods.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I mean, it's a more advanced ship. I believe it's said to have warp 7 roughly. I mean, the whole point of the Vulcan Andorian War is that they're almost, you know, ship for ship compatible, in terms, you know, they can fight. So it would make sense to have roughly the same warp speed. So warp 7 I mean, maybe it needs those extra drives. Maybe, obviously there's no reason to say blue isn't impulse and warp, but just following Trek conventions, it seems to imply these red things are going to be the impulse engines and all these blue parts are warp. I don't know. I mean, I think, is there a picture of the... Yeah, there's a picture of the back. I mean, do you want to go to the next one because it shows the back?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Yeah, see, looking at this... Wow. There's obviously impulse engines. I would assume that's what the red parts are.
Great looking impulse engine as well. I really like that with like the lines down.
Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, it could be argued... A point could be made that either that back part or those pods are engines. Just because of the coloring. Maybe that very back part with that lighter blue color could be like their brewery, because they're from the JJ verse or something. That's where they water storage.
Look, it's generic. It's not that generic. Give it some respect, Stuart. I mean, what does your gut say? Seriously, I think for me, design-wise, I prefer them being in the pods because then they are hidden and secured. But what do you think?
1,000%. I agree with you. I think those side pods would be the engines. But just the way that back part's glowing is very interesting, and then as to why that is.
Well, what if that's the deflector?
That thought crossed my mind too.
Like a deflector that pulses out. I mean, it has to build a bubble around the ship to bash stellar matter. I mean, at the front, so it makes sense, but why couldn't it just create like a... I mean, it's a more advanced ship, so why couldn't it just create a bubble around the whole ship, start at the back? And therefore, I mean, that's a very important feature of any ship design, is the deflector, because if you haven't got the deflector active, you can't go to warp, you shouldn't necessarily go fast through stellar matter because it might blow through your ship. So maybe having it not at the front makes it less destroyable, maybe?
Very proud of you. That's very non-ape brain to think of that. I like that a lot. That's a great theory.
Okay.
Absolutely. Stellar work.
But this is one of the few ones that I think, hey, the Eagle Moss magazine's right over there. I could just look at the answer. But
Oh, there is an answer? Oh, damn it.
I'm sure there is, but we're theorizing here. So at the end, I will look at the magazine and we'll say what the actual canon is. But it's interesting, and the fact there's difference in color. I mean, I love the idea because the Delta Flyer has those upable impulse or thruster pods. I would love if those pods actually either flattened, came out, or armor disappeared, so like emergency warp, or like the back part is warps 1 to 5, and the two other ones make it to warp 7.5. Like that's the higher, because again, it's a complete alien species. Why would they have the same exact warp tech we have? Maybe they have two different engines. That's the way they pushed the warp barrier, was to have a primary drive and two sub drives, which just reinforce the warp containment field, and yeah.
Going back to kind of what you said about the deflector thing, maybe that back part just enhances the warp bubble.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Why not?
All right, let's move on to the next picture, though. Oh, this is the concept art by John Eves.
Now, by the look of this, it says Andorian Vessels 41 ceasefire. So I'm assuming all of these are meant to be possible Andorians. I can't remember the exact, again, it's in the Eagle Moss, but I think these are all the potential. I think that was a difficult one to create. And these are all the potentials, and obviously you can see the Andorian at the top looks exactly the same. I mean, that's a 1-to-1.
Yeah.
But take it as these being all potential Andorians. What do you think?
Well, you see the design. You see the cue to the race, especially in that top right one. It looks like the two antennas, and even the one at the front, the way it's shaped. But that looks very Sona as well, which we know Johnny has designed also. So I think, I don't know. This is probably just a bunch of sketches that he did for the main ship. Perhaps, I don't know. And because I see what he's trying to do there by tying in how the race looks physically with their ship, so you get a visual cue of what race that is, which the final result really doesn't do at all. So, but I kind of like it in a way. I like that different look. So
yeah, it's certainly the most cohesive design out of the four of them. So we're biased because we that's the one that's picked. But in terms of like a starship, it's the most starship feeling. Like that's one I felt like you build the most realistically out of the four. I think though those pods, and obviously it's not necessarily his job to create what these are. I think that's obviously the design cue to the antennas.
Possibly, yeah.
That's presumably the thing. But I mean, what do you think of this bottom right one? Because that's very interesting.
I like that one too. I actually like that one better than the final version. I think that's very, very neat, and that is not as generic sci-fi to me as the final version. That would have fit in with my Star Trek universe, very Andorian, as far as I was concerned.
Very Andorian. So you do think it feels Andorian? Why?
Yes. Well, you got the two things at the side that like point backwards. I think reminiscent of the antenna. Like that's one thing we don't have stylistically with that final version of the ship is something that says, "I'm Andorian," because this is you can relate this to me or whatever.
Yeah,
that's my.
Unfortunately, with Telluride, like there's nothing. I mean, Tellurides are beardy and quite large. When we look at their final design, we can't say, "Hey, this ship looks beardy and large." It's kind of large, but it doesn't. It's difficult when a race. All we can tell about the Andorian race is they have two antennas. But look at our fighter planes. They don't speak to pink, short hair. Well, pink. I mean, I'm a white guy, but black, blue, green, whatever. I mean, what we design doesn't necessarily link directly to whatever
absolutely.
aliens would see as our primary physical cues. I mean, but what I really see with the bottom right one is that this aft section looks like, and you don't necessarily know about this as much because it's in a separate episode we've done, but in the back part it looks very, very much like the Vulcan Vulcan, the big Vulcan destroyer's shuttle, and then the engine pods look like the 5 engines. So you can tell he's pulling cues from himself. Actually, ironically, I kind of like the top right one the most, stylistically, because you're right. It's got the antennas, but you can justify that as being a different take on the warp engines. It's the front view is very dull, and I think you could probably add some more detail to the bottom. But look how sleek would that look flying through space? It's small, it's nimble. If you upscaled it a little bit, maybe added a bigger back section, that would be a very, flowing ship, I think.
Mm-hmm. Actually, looking at that front view, it could even be a Romulan faster ship, to be perfectly honest with you. I can see a warbird there with like modified engines. I like that. I like it a lot.
And to be fair,
any ideas for starship design now?
Yeah. And to be fair, if you filled in the bottom left one, that could be Romulan as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's fair to say the only one that doesn't look 2 out of 4. The final one at least looks the least Romulan, looks the least Klingon. I mean, that has at least its own stylistic. I mean, he definitely went a different direction with that.
True. Maybe that's why they selected that one. I don't know.
Okay, final on this one though. Which would you pick as the Andorian ship if you had to pick one?
Bottom right.
I'd probably pick a modified top right. Cool.
Next.
Yeah.
Oh, full Orthos Drex files.
Yes. Anything draw your eyes here?
Yes, the fact that back part is white on this one and not blue.
Yes. That
kind of. I mean, we've seen white engines in different franchises before.
I guess you can have white impulse, red thruster, blue warp.
Could do.
I mean that back and front view does look pretty awesome. It's kind of like a bat. It's kind of like that's kind of an aggressive. Like how many bulky big weapons? If they were all weapons, that front view looks cool.
And there you see the Andorian antenna from the front, kind of.
Yeah, I buy that more. I didn't see the fact there is a lot of symmetry. There's that top pod and bottom pod on the front. I mean, they could be weapons. They could be. I mean, if they were torpedo launchers, that'd be very nice and armed. Or they could be shuttle bays. I mean, there's a lot of elements that could be. And then in the middle, in the side view, I saw it in the Eagle Moss for the first time. There was actually a space in between, right there, for some reason. More Romulan, I guess. There. Do you get
that could be shuttle bay, like a shuttle bay launch, like protected runway, maybe a shuttle bay on each end.
Go for it, absolutely.
because I don't know where else there would be a shuttle bay on this, right? I'm kind of looking for one.
Well, we know there is a bay because they steal that Zindi probe in whichever season 3. Also, when we do the full episode, we'll know exactly where that is. Yeah. Although, do you get the feeling, though, that based on the fact that there's a line in the middle and sort of the way the neck is, that might be a connection point for separation or like an emergency?
Oh, yeah, I would say so. It's a definite possibility.
It's a very clean line, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cool. The next picture is another one of mine that I did. Scale with the NX-01. Now, we do see lots of shots where we get to see them together, and we have a real sense of how big the Vulcan ships are, the NX-01. But how big is this in your mind, and is that what you thought it would be scale-wise, and what do you think?
I actually expected it to be a little bit bigger, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
I thought the NX would probably be the length of one of those pods.
Wow, okay.
Well, I don't know, like, internal volume-wise, with that size, that's not much more crew than can fit in the NX.
Not with how it's done, yeah.
And then for them being more advanced, I would just assume that the ships would be a little bit bigger. So to see this is kind of disheartening for size-wise, but I get it. I get it, but...
I think, though, because how much thicker the ship is as well, in the 3/4 it would look more impressive. I think just from the top, how thin it is doesn't. Exactly. I mean, it's about, what, 3/5 the size? Roughly?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But the next one, we took that one step further, compare it with the Enterprise from, obviously, 100 years later, or less than 100. Does it feel bigger?
Yes, it does, actually. Yep. I always thought that the NX was like the length of one of the Connie's engines. So this looks too big to me.
It's not.
Are we sure this is right?
Yeah. What? Come on, if it was the size of that, I mean, it wouldn't have any crew. I know it's a small ship, but that, I mean, the nacelle's not long. I mean, it's not like a long.
Well, the Defiance is the size of a Connie nacelle, lengthwise, but it has a lot less crew than the NX.
They have like 55 people. I mean, that's
exactly. Yeah.
You know.
No, I always in my head I always thought that the NX was the length of one of the Connie's nacelles. So this actually really just blows me away.
It was funny because obviously we've seen this. I mean, these are the two models used in Into Mirror Darkly, so we saw it. And we saw it, like, kind of great shots side by side, but I guess you didn't get that memo.
It's just the way they angled it. It could have been closer to the camera or whatever. And
true, very true. But again, really, that puts into perspective, though. I mean, the Connies are sort of a nice step up. But I mean, that Andorian ship would look pretty opposing, especially in 3/4, even if it was against Connies. You know, it would still have that bulk, still have that, scale.
Yeah. Totally agree. Wow. Learn something new every day. Thank you, Samuel, for educating me. All right, so this next one is a fan-done Orthos.
Now, again, we have the real model, so we now, as opposed to other mission briefings, we have the real. What do you think of this model in comparison to this 3D model, how it represents the ship?
This one seems like a next generation version of the one we saw, of the one we've been looking at. It looks more sleeked out a little bit more futuristic, bigger. It's got 3 things on the side, those 3 circles instead of 2.
Well, it's interesting because in the Eaglemoss version there's 3. Because in the retro model there is 3, but one is actually a very small circle of a different style. But they just sort of show. Oh, no, there is only 2. What am I saying? But yeah, there's 3, and there's more glowy elements as well. Like, it does feel more alive. And you've got, commission 2141, 2146, remaining service in 2186, so not even that old of a ship. 400 meters, that about seems right. Height 68 meters, not a lot. 86 crew. Wow, that's
interesting. That's way less than I expected.
I would have said like 150, maybe.
Yeah, I was thinking closer to like 200.
But
I don't know. number that I just had in
Well,
my head for some reason.
I think the problem with this ship though is that there's not going to be anyone living in this bit, this or this. It's just the middle bit, and this bit's obviously engine, the components. So I mean, you've really only got this. I mean, I can buy that, I guess. I mean, if you consider there might be more areas with maybe weapons, weapon shooting galleries and things, they might kit out with other stuff.
Mm-hmm. This has the warp at 5.5.
Yeah, that sounds slow to me.
Well, it says normal cruise.
Oh sure, okay, yeah.
Which is the Enterprise's max speed. So yeah, that
True.
makes sense for no cruising
Photonic
speed.
torpedo. I would think they would just have photon. We invented them photon torpedoes. That was like a new thing. I think they use photons, but okay. Yeah, I mean it's reasonably. I mean 3 is pretty good. Don't know where they fire from, but hey, it's all good.
Yeah, it's hard to see weapons placements on this. Like, there's lots of obvious places where they could be, but to actually see any is kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't see any, so.
Yeah.
But. All right, so let's go on to the next picture. Oh, this is from the magazine. Ooh.
Hey, we put it in anyway. That's awesome.
Cool. So.
And I was right. It was weapons arrays on the side. I do remember reading that. Okay, and the top two things. The top one is a cargo hatch. Okay, that makes sense to me. And a particle cannon is the front, so it might be that section that you saw. I can buy that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Still doesn't tell us what the back part is or where the shuttle bay is.
Nope.
Damn it.
Hey.
Well, assuming that cargo hatch thing, it could be the shuttle bay as well. There's even one on the bottom, so who knows?
And it says there's particle cannons there as well, so you got weapons pods. I mean, to be fair, there might be torpedoes. Each of these might be a torpedo array, and that might be the particle cannons. I mean, and that might be particle as well. I mean, I could sort of buy that. Dedicated torpedo pods. And maybe, can you imagine if that was... Well, I guess you could be in the middle, but imagine if each of those points was a torpedo launcher. Either side. Imagine if you had 8 torpedo launchers, and at least 3 particle phases. I mean, that would be a serious punch.
Yeah. 8 photon torpedo launchers in an Andorian ship. That's unheard of. Moving right on.
It's a conspiracy, everyone. It's a conspiracy.
Alright, so the next picture. Oh. This is definitely a advanced later version.
Well, you put this one in, so what is it, Stuart?
Well, it's from Star Trek Online.
Ah.
I don't know if it's just a concept sketch or I haven't actually used any of the Andorian ships in Star Trek Online, but I saw this and thought, wow, this is a cool version of the one we've been looking at. So it's worth. This looks definitely upsized and more roomy than the last one. We see windows at the back there on the top, and this like you can see the clear definition of those engines. They look more like engines than this one, and well, you still got that glowy bit at the very back in the middle. So I don't know. I think that's part of the engine component, possibly.
Yeah, and this is definitely a really brought in version. I mean, this is very long and thin. This one's much more robust. Maybe a cruiser of some kind. Yeah, I mean, it kind of looks very Mass Effect-y.
I was just gonna say it looks almost like the Dominion battleship.
Yeah, it's kind of Dominion-y. Yeah. It's interesting.
So,
I mean, it's fun to see a future version. I like it.
Yeah.
And we're back to the first picture, which is also the last picture of the Andorian Kumari. So, Stuart, what are your closing thoughts on this legendary, unbeatable, iconic Star Trek design?
Well, I think that, like I said, it doesn't speak Star Trek to me. It doesn't necessarily say Andorian. It doesn't have that unique Star Trek universe feel, much like the Cardassian ships or whatever do. This one is very generic sci-fi for me, and it could be used in any franchise. I like it. I do like the design. It looks great. But I just see so many other little elements of other ships from different franchises that it pulls me out of the Star Trek world, and I don't like that. That's basically my overall take on the ship.
But you do like it.
I do love the ship, absolutely.
So we're kind of doing a jellyfish on it. It's a great design, but not Vulcan. It's a great design, but not Andorian / Star Trek.
Well, yeah, I don't know. This is the only Andorian ship I've been used to, and it's a Federation inspired, built by Andorians, designed by Andorians, but built by the Federation because they were part of the Federation. So,
although, like you pointed out, there is elements that you could link to it. So, hey,
yeah, there are.
Makes sense. Yeah, for me, I'm sort of echoing what you said a little bit. I mean, I'm very much, if it's in the show, it's canon. I mean, the Andorians, there are very few races that get nicely fleshed out treatment. The Cardassians get quite a lot in DS9. The Klingons obviously get a lot throughout the eras. Romulans do a decent amount culture-wise, and sort of Vulcans to some extent. Andorians, while you felt like they had quite a lot in Enterprise, I don't think really did, and this doesn't really speak to their culture or their design. I mean, yeah, I just always felt that it's like that Big Brother race almost. It's that big ship that can beat up Enterprise and not much else. It's sort of on par with everything else.
I just thought of something that middle back part could be. I got to jump in. Sorry. We know you were speaking of what makes it Andorian. Well, the color scheme, the fact it was cold. They like the cold. Maybe that's a big refrigeration unit in the middle.
Perfect.
Refrigerates the whole ship. Who knows?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Well done. You've cracked. That's what John Eves meant to make.
Kumari Code. Yes.
Slow clap.
Free on you.
Internet. Slow clap. For Stuart. No, you can't clap yourself. I'm clapping you.
Oh.
But great 3D model. I look forward to the third episode. We can really make it shine, do some great other stuff. And I think that's it. Not much else to say on the Andorian Kumari. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys. If you want to help out the show, please go to Patreon and donate for our monthly service because, hey, we do a lot of content each every month, and even $5 a month would actually help us keep going and do more stuff and just help make it full time because we want to keep making content, but we need time, so we need rent, so we need money. Real life. I'll do a one-time donation at Trekyards.com. Click that donate button. So say bye, Stuart, then I'll close out.
Bye, Stuart, and I'll close out.
See you next time, guys. Bye.
Oh, bye, Pinkskins.